Hello and welcome. I'm Tom Fisher with Fishstone. Thanks for joining us today. If you're a concrete professional, you understand the need for a high-performance concrete sealer. Today we're going to talk to you about U-Seal. U-Seal is a unique high-performance concrete sealer developed specifically for this industry. Coming up in a short video, we're going to talk to you about everything that you need to know. Everything from surface preparation, mixing, application, curing, and more. So please be sure to stay tuned and check it out. Before we get started, it's important to talk about safety. And although U-Seal is a water-based, non-hazardous product, there are some safety guidelines that should be followed. So make sure that you read, understand, and follow all the guidelines that are on the technical data sheet and on the product labeling. And step one is surface preparation. Surface preparation is a very key component to the process of sealing. Surface preparation can be done one of two ways. It can either be done chemically through a product like Clean and Etch, which is a chemical etching solution, or it can be done mechanically with a sandpaper or a diamond abrasion disc. Now, whether the concrete itself is old or new, it's very important that the concrete is very clean, that it's dry, and that it's free of any contaminants. Now today we have a small sample piece here that we're going to be preparing for you. And what we're going to do is use a 220 grit sandpaper just to go over the surface to remove any of the contaminants, to remove that cream layer, to give it good bonding. So the key here is that we want to make sure that we want to remove this cream layer that's on the surface and also remove any unevenness that might be along the edges or in the center of the surface. But by just going over the surface with the sandpaper, we're going to be abrading the surface, making it a good surface for the sealer to stick to. We sanded our surface, and now what we want to do is, ideally it's a good insurance policy to do what I call an acetone wipe or a little bit of a scrub to make sure you get rid of all the oils and the dirts. Acetone's a good choice because it evaporates very quickly. It pushes out any water that you might have. But primarily we're trying to just make sure we get all the dust off the surface. But you can see how quickly it's actually drying off of the surface. Look at your rag, see if you have any residue. If you do, it's not a bad idea to give it a second wipe. The more dust, dirt, oil you can get off the surface, the better the adhesion of the sealer is going to be. Okay, for step two, we're now going to start mixing U-Seal. U-Seal can be mixed in two different ways. It's a simple 3-to-1 mix ratio. So when you open up, you get your package, it's going to come with a part A, it's going to come with a part B, which is the catalyst, and it will come with a set of instructions. U-Seal is a simple 3-to-1. The A component is about 2/3 of the way full bottle. Part B is always a full bottle. When you blend it, you can do it one of two ways. You can either measure this out by weight, or you can measure this by volume. By volume, we can use different types of graduated cylinders based upon the amount of sealer that we want to mix up. Very small batches, we can use a syringe. Larger batches, we can use a pitcher. And even larger batches, we'll just use a bucket. For our sample piece here today, we're going to weigh this out by volume, or by weight. So what we have here is a scale, and we have a small piece here. So what I'm going to do is weigh out about 90 grams of part A. And there we are, 90 grams of that. And then what we're going to do is just simply zero out our scale. We're going to take the part B, it comes in a nice plastic container, easy twist off lid. And it's nice and easy to pour out of this bottle too. So we're just going to add 30 grams of that. Part B. Out there, just a drop more. All right. Now for stirring this, what we want to use is something that's not going to induce a lot of air, so we use a fan type mixing paddle and a drill on medium speed. Mix for about 2 minutes. So we're going to mix this for about 2 to 3 minutes, and then we're going to have to let this sit for about a half an hour. Now that the sealer has been mixed for about 2 to 3 minutes, low speeds, we want to let this product induct for about 30 minutes. Now, the product's actually perfectly fine to use after 10 minutes, but 30 minutes is going to allow the matting agent to fully emulsify. So what that means is that if you were to use this product 10 minutes after you mix it, it's actually going to have a glossy surface. But by allowing it to wait the full 30 minutes, it's going to have this nice matte, flat satin finish that most people are after. Now, the first coat that we're going to be putting on this is what I call the primer or the bond coat. And what this is doing is this is enabling the sealer to have penetrating characteristics. U-Seal has not only a topical coating, which gives you that excellent stain protection, but it also has penetrating characteristics that gives you that more natural look, plus it also aids with the adhesion. So depending upon the porosity of your concrete, so if you have very dense concrete, we're going to want to do a heavy dilution to our primer coat. So the primer coat, get this out of the way. The primer coat is basically our sealer, but we dilute it with anywhere from 5 to 7 parts water. So it's a real heavy dilution. So basically what that means is 5 parts water to 1 part sealer. In this particular application, we're going to do a 6 to 1. And what I have here is about 246 grams, and I'm going to add 40 grams to make it a 6 to 1. So we'll just zero that out. We'll add 40 grams of our sealer. And a little over, but that's okay. Now what we want to do is just give it another quick stir. We're ready to use the sealer. The U-Seal, what you can do is we can apply this product in 2 different ways. One is we can spray it with an HVLP sprayer, or we can roll it. Today we're going to be using the roller technique. So here we have our diluted sealer, and basically the idea here is to just saturate the surface of the concrete. We want to use a liberal amount, get plenty on there, get the roller nice and wet. And it's always a really good idea to make sure you get your edges first. That will help eliminate any chances of any drip marks that you get along your edges. Don't worry about roller marks, don't worry about the bubbles. We're just looking to get a good heavy saturation of the sealer on here. Now this process can take anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes. What we're looking for is the surface to be completely even. Once again, as you can see here, we have a dark spot, light spot. That's just a difference in hydration, so that will even out as this side begins to hydrate more. Don't forget about your edges. Keep going over your edges. So once again, we're just going to do this. Keep it hydrated, keep it wet until it completely saturates it. The color looks even. The concrete is not drinking anymore of the sealer. And we'll just continue to do this until it evens itself out. Okay, well, we've been rolling this for about 10 minutes here now, and it looks as though it's pretty well hydrated completely. Doesn't appear to be absorbing any more of the sealer. So now it's time to get rid of all these roller marks. We don't want to just simply roll it as smooth as we can and walk away. We'll get some imperfections. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to basically slowly remove the sealer. You can see there's quite a bit of sealer in the roller. One way you can do it is just pull all the sealer off to the edges. If you're in an environment, you can do that. Otherwise, just get the excess into your roller. In a clean garbage can or bucket, simply squeeze out the excess. You could use a new clean dry roller if you choose to, but this process works very well. We're going to go over the surface some more, get some more of the excess off, get our edges. So now we're using just a fair amount of pressure on the roller itself trying to get rid of the majority of the roller marks. I give it one more squeeze to get any excess sealer out. There's not much. Basically get it as dry as you can. You can see the roller marks are starting to diminish a little bit. They're still there. And now I'm starting to use even less pressure on the roller itself. Get your edges nice. And the goal here is to keep going over the surface like this until everything looks even and sheen and uniformity. We don't see any of the roller marks. It's a nice idea to have a cross light on the other side so you can really see what you have. And we're getting pretty close. So everything here looks pretty even. I think now what we want to do is just walk away, come back in about half an hour, 45 minutes, and we'll put on our second coat. Okay, well, we finished our primer coat. Here's our piece. It's been about an hour now, and a good way to tell if it's time to recoat is if you can put your finger in it and it doesn't leave a fingerprint. One of the real key advantages to the U-Seal system is the fast recoat time. It usually can be recoated within 2 hours, even at full strength. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start our second coat. Now, if you remember, the saturation coat was a heavily diluted coat, so it penetrated deep into the concrete. Now we want to start building up some stain protection on the counter surface. So what we're going to do is we're going to change this down to let's say a 2-to-1 mix ratio. So I've got this zeroed out. I have 60 grams of water in there. I'm going to put in approximately 30 grams of sealer. And you can see we still, once again, don't need a lot of sealer on there. Go ahead and give it another stir for about 20 seconds. And what I'm using is the same roller we used before. I just shoved it right in the plastic bag that the sealer comes in. And just like our primer coat, we're going to put it on there. But as you see, it's not darkening the concrete surface. It's not enhancing the color anymore because it's not penetrating. It's basically sitting on the surface. This coat can get applied much quicker. We don't need that 10-15 minutes for it to really soak in and to absorb into the concrete. So here our goal is to just get a good even coating all over the surface, getting our edges well. And just getting a good even coat over the whole surface. Once again, we don't worry about the air bubbles yet. We don't care about roller marks. We just want to make sure we have a good solid coating over the entire surface. So now we can right away begin our process of smoothing it out. What you'll find is that with the lower dilution rates, it's going to dry a little quicker. It's going to tack up on you a little quicker. So you want to make sure that this process gets smoother than the primer coat. Once again, we squeeze out the excess. And now I'm to the point now where I'm pretty much zero pressure on the roller, just letting the weight of the roller push it around. You can see the bubbles are disappearing, the roller marks are slowly disappearing. Make sure you get your edges. And there you have it. That's the second coat. Now, if you want to put subsequent coats on for countertops, for high use areas, you probably want 3, perhaps 4 coats on here. The more coats you have on here, the more protection your concrete is going to have. For fireplace surrounds, for things that don't get a lot of use, perhaps just a primer coat might be good enough, or maybe the primer coat and 1 secondary coat. With your subsequent coats, it's important to keep in mind that if you're applying your secondary, 3rd coat, 4th coat, within 16 hours, you can apply the sealer directly over itself. If you're waiting longer than 16 hours, it's a really good idea to sand the surface with a 220 grit sandpaper. That'll give it enough tooth for that next layer to adhere to it very well. Also keep in mind that if for some reason you have a bad surface, you get interrupted with your sealing job and you have roller marks, you happen to have a fly that lands in your sealer, you can easily sand this between coats to make sure that you have a nice and smooth flat surface before you put your next coat on. And the final steps, curing and maintenance. U-Seal is dry to the touch within 3 hours, can be lightly used after 24 hours, and full use after 7 days. For general maintenance, we recommend simply a mild soapy solution. So to wrap things up, we talked about the items that you'll need, we talked about surface preparation, we talked about the mixing, the application, the curing, and the maintenance and care. As you can see, U-Seal is simple to use and maintain. Whether you're sealing indoors or out, concrete countertops, furniture, architectural elements, or flooring, U-Seal is the perfect sealer for your concrete.